And we're back with another Puck Yourself on a beautiful, somewhat rainy Sunday morning.
Sunday morning
It,
into afternoon.
it feels appropriate given we're mourning a lot of yet another game. It kind of feels like it has been a rough March. Rough March.
Tough March. Before we get started, everyone needs to say happy birthday to Jack. It was his birthday yesterday.
I am so close to being classified as old.
Yeah. Well, according to my girlfriend, I've been old for 3 years, so
That's wild.
yeah.
You're still young.
I mean, you're older than me, so
Then I'm still young.
okay.
That counts.
All right, that counts, eh?
Once you're in the dirty 30s,
Yeah.
you're kind of like you aren't this fringe case of you're still kind of in, you're in your 20s still.
Yeah.
Once you hit 30, you're cooked.
Yeah.
You may as well shrivel up.
Wow, that's a dark way
So
of thinking.
this may be
Yeah.
a quarter life crisis. I don't know.
Okay.
But get ready.
Get ready. Well, quarter life. Wouldn't that be like 25?
No, average age life expectancy going up. We're going off of like
120? 120.
Yeah.
You're going to live till 120.
Well, if I keep jogging and
You're not going to live to 120.
I might need to in order to see the Leafs Stanley Cup.
Well, we're all going to die without seeing that at this rate. So,
It doesn't look great.
um, it's not been a good month. Wasn't the easiest of matchups this week, just like last week, but there's still no excuse.
You can't be losing to Ottawa. And for whatever reason, Ottawa has our number.
Never mind Ottawa. You can't be. It's the consistency of blown leads. They were the best team in the league all year, not blowing leads. And in the past 2 weeks, it has just imploded. I
felt like we were kind of finally past the hump because that's been that way for forever.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times do we need to reference Boston
Yeah.
on Game 7? But it felt like a lot of this year they've been able to hold on. They weren't facing those issues anymore. And the guys just can't hold a lead at all. If they score one, they're giving up a goal within the next 2-3 minutes.
Yeah. So we started on Monday. We were in Utah for the last game of the road trip on Monday. Had a good start. The nice little Benoit Superman punch in the fight.
What a freaking photo.
Yeah.
I mean, if you watch the clip, it wasn't a great execution of the punch, but for a photo
Just
op,
give her.
frame that, buddy. Holy smokes.
And then he got a goal, and the Leafs were flying 3-0.
Yeah.
And then that was 3-0. Benoit made it 3-0 at the beginning of the second.
And then somehow.
And then the rest of the second, they just imploded. No goals in the third. They bailed themselves out in the shootout. It was a little late, so I didn't really catch any of this game.
No, yeah, this is another Pacific.
Yeah.
Midweek game.
It is nice to see Matthews and Marner score in a shootout because it seems every time we go in a shootout, we suck at shootouts, which is interesting when you have the talent level that we have. With the talent level the Leafs have, 3-on-3 overtime and shootout should be no problem.
Yeah.
Like they should be, but it doesn't seem to be that way. So finally, they got it done in a shootout, but it shouldn't have got there in the first place. There shouldn't have been a loser's point in that game. But I don't know. That game, though I didn't watch it, it was the most alarming to me, even though it was the only win this week. I think they said the Leafs have one regulation win in March. That is, granted, you're only, what's today, the 15th or 16th? You're halfway through. So you still have 2 weeks, but that's tough. Against and the teams you have wins against, like the Pittsburgh win, you blew it, got lucky, won in overtime. Utah, you blew it, you got lucky, won in a shootout.
What's wrong?
The Florida game, the Utah game was the worst in terms of like the whole game. They played well for a period. I think the Florida game was the most telling for this guy's fucking making hockey pickups right now while we're recording.
Sorry, it's a Sunday.
Yeah.
And I gotta make sure.
Jack has to win today to get in the playoffs.
So we had Sod sitting. We took a chance on Sod yesterday.
Yeah.
Didn't play out.
The Florida game is the most telling for our playoff hopes because it shows that this is the cream of the crop of the NHL over the past 2 seasons. The defending champions have been in the finals 2 years in a row, and the East goes through Florida. Even before the deals, the East goes through Florida. And this is without Marchand. This is without Kachuk. Ekblad. We'll get to that.
And we still couldn't.
Listen, it wasn't like we got run out of the building.
It was a close game.
But it's telling in a sense of like, can we... I know the style of play has changed for us this season. It has. But you still have the same players. Can you, over a full season, can that work with this group of players when you need it to work the most? Listen, it's March. It doesn't matter until the end of April.
Mm-hmm. And they looked really solid. Like, don't get us wrong. This is still, I think they're still second in the division.
Not anymore. After last night's loss, they're in third.
Not anymore.
No. They're tied with Tampa, but Tampa's got the tiebreaker. We'll see. It's still tight. They're only 4 points back of Florida. They're tied with Tampa. It's going to be a race to the finish, but the way they're playing right now, it's not looking... Tampa had a tough stretch during the season where Florida and Toronto, it was pretty much a given. Like, these guys are finishing top 2. They're both going to get home advantage in at least the first round.
Yeah.
And it was going to be a battle between those Florida and Toronto for first, but Tampa has come alive.
Yeah. I didn't know if Tampa was even going to
get third in the Atlantic. Yeah. Ottawa was on their heels, but Tampa went on a big heater. And even Ottawa isn't 4 points back of us. If we keep playing this way for the rest of the season, 15, 16 games to go, we could be in a wild card spot if we don't wake the fuck up here.
You need to feel the fire.
Because Tampa's looking good, Florida looks the usual, and Ottawa's looking good. So,
and contrast it, because Montreal even played Florida last night.
And won.
Yeah. Like 3-1. Yeah. So
I don't think we're under threat to miss the playoffs. It's too much of a stretch there.
Yeah.
But
if you're heading into playoff in this form,
yeah, it's not ideal. And then you're gonna have to, and then if you're gonna get the first wild card, because there's a pretty big gap between them and the second wild card. You got 9 points, so that would take a lot. If they were to get the first wild card, they would stay in the Atlantic, which would mean you're probably playing Florida in the first round, and then you have to play either Tampa or Ottawa in the second round. Listen, we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit here, but it needs to be better.
You start the feeling of, please tell me this isn't kind of worst case scenario creeping in.
The Florida game was probably Domi's best game in a long time.
Great hit on Verhaeghe.
He was physical. He got in the fight. He scored a goal. He's moving his feet. That's Domi's best I've seen Domi.
Yeah. Easily best game in probably a couple of years. Like, this was better than any game he had last season.
Definitely this season. He had near the end of last year. He was playing a little better. But Domi's brought in for the physical style of play, and this is the most I've seen him. I'm not talking physical style of play, muck it up after the whistle. I'm talking in game, on the forecheck, moving your feet, be physical, hit. Doesn't have to be open ice hit. Just be. Listen, Domi's not a center. Okay, I think them going to get Lawton proves that. I think they know that.
Yeah. Even last night he wasn't playing center.
If Domi moves his feet and is hard on the forecheck and is physical, then his game will look a lot better. Mm-hmm. If Domi is doing those things, the lack of scoring can be made up for a little bit. Actually, if Domi's doing those things, the scoring is more likely. If he's on the puck, if he's moving his feet. That's the criticism with Domi. And when he plays like that, he looks great. But I don't. When you're just, oh, we're playing Florida, it's a big game, so I'm going to play now. You need that every night. Every fucking night.
Yep. Shouldn't matter who.
It doesn't matter who the opposition is. Every night, going. And again, we didn't get run out of the building. But this is Florida without 3 key players. And we still couldn't get the job done at home.
It wasn't Stolar's best game. But
yeah,
again, there's a lot of play that breaks down.
That's something I want to touch on too, but we'll get to that after we talk about last night's game. So Florida, listen, not our worst game, but it's just it seems a little flat.
We opened the scoring in the Florida.
Yeah, we were up 1. They scored 3 unanswered, and then Domi got 1 in the third.
And it looked like they came alive a little bit in the last 10 of that third, but it's too late. That can't be the standard of, okay, well, we're ahead, so,
Yeah. And then Ottawa again last night went up 1-0, went up 2-1.
And
blew another lead.
In the same theme where it was, we open the scoring, okay, they get one back really quick.
It's quick, yeah.
We get, frankly, donated a Matthews goal with Allmark getting caught in tripping.
Yeah.
It just, the offense, and Allmark was good, but the offense was
stagnating, Nylander looked the best I've seen him in a while last night.
His goal was phenomenal.
Yeah, it looked the best I've seen in a while. Since the Four Nations, he's been pretty quiet, which can happen with him. Nylander's one of those guys where it's like he needs something to get him going. So come playoff time, it's like it's the playoffs, so he'll be up for it, right? But in dog days of the season, it's kind of like, okay. And and we're talking about this guy, and he's still second in the league in goals.
Yeah. And I think you're right, because it's like, okay, they're up until last night.
Yeah.
They were sitting in second. Okay, we're in kind of cruise control. When are the playoffs going to be here? I just want to get going.
Odd month. Tampa's had a really good month. You don't want to have to go to Tampa.
Yeah. You gotta wanna show up every single night.
Matthews is getting criticism lately for his play. Listen, again, it's not the expectation because of the offensive, the goal scoring he has shown in the past is high, which you're not scoring 69 goals every season.
No.
That's extremely unrealistic. Obviously, it has stagnated a little bit. You know what I find with him? He isn't shooting the puck as much this year.
No, he's not. And
it's a lot of getting a chance on the one time, or maybe the pass isn't great, so he's got to stop it, or even just passing up the opportunity. It seems he's getting in the mix more. It's not as much perimeter. And it's good to see because you need that in the playoffs. That's going to be your highest opportunity to score in the come playoff time. But you still need to be a threat, especially a player that's making that money.
It's a good call up because last night they referenced his shooting percentage is like 11.
Yeah.
It's like a career low.
Yeah.
And I think part of that is just the role he's playing. He's not in those spots where he had crazy success.
But it's still like power play time. It's just like they seem to be passing up shots. He seems to be passing up shots.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is there something going on? Is the injury lingering? I don't know. Listen, his 200-foot game, I have no issue with. I don't know about you. I have no issue with it. Marner's having probably his best ever season.
Offensively, like goal scoring wise.
I would say this is Nylander's best goal scoring season for sure. I'd say he was probably slightly better all around last year, but goal scoring wise, he's going to beat what he had last year. Tavares this is his best season in Toronto since like his first 2 years here. Nyes has had a coming out party this year. So it all comes back to the issue of depth. And where is it going to come from?
Bobby's cooled off again.
McMahon is streaky. Domi hasn't had it since he's been in Toronto.
He brought in Lawton now, who
Lawton's not really is not that type of player.
No.
Yarncroke's not that type of player. Robertson has never really he's kind of like McMahon. He goes on spurts, but even less than McMahon.
Yeah.
I just don't know where it's gonna come from when we need it, and it's
Our fourth line hasn't scored a goal in months.
it's not gonna be. I think like Kampf got scratched last night. Revo's in the minors now, so they're trying different things. And that's not to say like I'm expecting guys like Yarncroke and Lorentz to come out and score 20 goals a season here. Like that's not their role. That's not the type of players they are, right? And like Yarncroke is coming back a long layoff, so like you can be a little forgiving if he's a little rusty. And honestly, I don't think he's been that bad.
Yarncroke?
I don't think he's been that bad. I think he's been decent actually. Because he's come back a couple times and it seems that it's been too early. Like last year, he didn't look great when he came back at the end of the season. This year, in the middle of the season, when he came back, he didn't look terrific. But this is the best he's looked off of an injury.
Yeah, I would agree.
Since the long-term injuries have been coming into play, so it can be considered kind of like a deadline pickup because he hasn't played a ton.
Yeah.
But again, it's a depth pickup. It's not a guy who's going to score a ton of goals. And again, we're not asking depth scoring. We're not asking for a shit ton of goals. Domi has 5 goals. He's our 4th highest paid forward after the 3.
And we're through 60.
We played 65, 66 games or something like that. He's got 5 goals.
Any better on the assists? Because I don't think it is.
I'll look at the whole roster here. Like it's going to be top heavy.
At least last season, there were some assists. I think he may have gotten 25 assists or something last season.
Like okay, so Marner's got 80 points, right? Almost 60 assists. Nylander's got 68 points. He'll probably get 40 goals at least. Like Matthews, 57 points. Listen, we talked about it a little bit. He's only got 24 goals. He's also only played 51 games. So he's missed 15 games. So if he is playing all those games, plus the fact that he would be healthy if he was playing these games and not coming back still hurt a little bit, I think it would be a little higher. It wouldn't be 70. But like he could be in the 50 to 60 range. Tavares has 56 points in 59 games. He has cooled off a little bit from his start, but he's still playing well.
He had a great chance last night, a couple actually.
And then like Nyes is on 24 goals. That's a little bit of that's the secondary we need, right? After that, it falls off a lot. Riley is our next leading scorer on 33 points, and this is one of Riley's worst seasons. Yeah. McMahon's got 17 goals, so he could get to 20. Not terrible.
That'd be nice.
Not terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Lawton, but he hasn't played with us. He played on a way weaker team.
And it seems like he hasn't quite figured it out.
Yeah.
It's a couple games, but
Domi has 5 goals and 21 assists in
what did he have
58 games.
What did he have last year in 82?
He played 80 games last year. He had 9 goals and 38 assists.
Okay, so decent on the assists. So even on the assists, he's behind pace. So he's having a noticeably even worse year than last year, and we were bitching about him last year.
And he's playing more minutes this year too.
And working his way up the line for some. So
games. That's like Robertson, 11 goals.
They started him on the first line last night.
Yeah. I just don't, and from the back end, there's nothing from the back end.
Well, when you phrase it as he's our 4th highest paid forward,
yeah,
that's insane.
Yeah. Nyes will get more soon, but after that,
for today's state,
yeah.
Okay, I want to pull on something there. The Matthews in particular, because when Matthews was out, the guys are playing really well. And it's
the first time he was out. The second time he was out, they didn't play well.
If there is some sort of a lingering issue, is it too much of a gamble to give him 3-4 games off to see if it's a health issue? Because right now you're in this weird state of you're consistently losing at this point. And I agree. I don't think it's a we're gonna miss the playoffs type bad, but it doesn't feel good. And if it is a health issue, are you gonna take him out because he is still a threat? But this isn't a team that looks like they can get past the first round.
If it's actually a big issue, then yes, I don't necessarily disagree. I think he probably has pain, but I don't think it's like some terrible thing that's gonna like affect him. Like I think it's pain, and it's just something you play through. Every single player in the NHL is gonna have some type of are you hurt or are you injured?
Yeah.
And every single player in the NHL is gonna be hurt at least a little bit. Every single one, especially when it comes to the end of the season, come playoff time.
It's kind of the nature of the game.
That's what it is.
Physical.
That's what it is.
Demanding game.
There's two sports where if you can't play hurt, you can't play, and that's hockey and football. And even a lot of guys will play injured. So
guys in basketball get a bad haircut.
yeah, well, we're not gonna.
Okay, sorry, LeBron.
We're not gonna talk about that.
Sorry, Bronny Jr.
And that's so. This is the point. You've played Florida and Ottawa this week. Those are two teams who play a playoff style game. Now we have played a lot more of a playoff style game this year.
Yeah.
The problem is our roster capable of winning that way. I know we've talked about it. We need to change the style of play, and which I don't disagree with. We needed to change the style of play in order to win the playoffs, and it could still pan out. We don't know. It could just be a bad couple weeks. Excuse me.
Because up till this point, it's looked really good.
It's good. It's looked solid. Okay. It's just is the personnel that we have the right personnel to execute that plan. It's really hard to sit here and to say Marner could get 100 points this year, and it's really hard to sit here and say the Leafs should let him go. It's really hard to say Matthews is a guy who could score 70 goals in a season. It's hard to say let him go. Nylander, when he's on, is I said it last night. It's mojo. He just has that I'm the guy about him and just the confidence.
Mm-hmm.
And
did it last night. He skated 7 players, half of them.
And it's just that type of player. And even Tavares, as an older player, he still does things the right way. And Nyes does things the right way. But it's after that.
It's the first time I've considered is our superstar that's going to get us a cup, Austin
Matthews. The cap is going up, so it could help. Mm-hmm. It should help the teams near the top with depth problems.
Because they're so front-loaded salary-wise.
For a lot of teams. But the Leafs are probably in the worst situation in the league.
Yeah.
Now that Colorado has done what they have done. Edmonton's kind of similar, but they only have 2 guys. Mm-hmm. They have some D that are on bad money, but he actually has been better this year.
Yeah.
But I can't think of anyone else that is anywhere near as top heavy as we are.
No one comes.
Florida has tons of guys, but even the bottom of their lineup still bangs, and the guys in the top of the lineup are guys that are playoff style players and they score.
Yeah.
Tampa still doing it. The people writing them off, don't write them off yet.
Yeah.
They still have tons of talent. They went and did all the years that they won the 3 finals in a row, the 2 cup wins. They went out and they got depth. They didn't go get some stud to add to the lineup. They got enough of those. Mm-hmm. They went and got 3rd line depth, 4th line depth, and they did it again at the deadline this year. They got the goaltending. Vasilevsky's playing well right now. Don't count them out. And this is the issue. Can the Leafs beat those 2 teams? Because the way it's looking, they're not going to win the division. They're not going to win the division the way they're playing right now.
Unless they win out, and that's it.
If they wake up, then maybe. You still have 15, 16 games to go.
Like 75-80% of those games.
Exactly. And need Florida to fall off a little bit. Yeah. And Tampa. Because Tampa's one of the hottest teams in the league right now.
Yeah.
So in that case scenario, you would be probably realistically, you would play Tampa in the first round and Florida in the second round. Realistically.
If you play Tampa,
can you beat those 2 teams?
You stand a chance with Tampa. I think the matchup is a little bit more favorable but Florida seems insurmountable.
So do you think the way this team is right now, they're capable of a deep run in the Atlantic?
No. Not with how they're playing.
Say the Leafs, they figure it out over the next couple of weeks, and they're playing the best you've seen them play. That like near what they've played when they've looked good this season. Are they capable of getting out of the gauntlet in the Atlantic? Because even if Florida loses, Ottawa's a playoff style team too. They're not quite ready yet, but they're not going to be an easy out.
It's all dependent on Florida, I think. If Florida falls to Ottawa, I think we can outdo Ottawa. I understand the playoff team, and I like the Cousins pickup. I think the experience is going to come into play. I think Ottawa is going to face the experience issue of big games. Not guys like Brady, not guys like Giroux, not guys like Shabbat, even Stutzel. But I think like some of those depth guys, I think we'll get a little bit of deer in headlights.
Yeah.
I think if you can manage to beat Tampa, I still don't see you surmounting Florida.
Yeah. So a couple of questions. I did forget to mention Tanev is back. Tanev has returned, so that will help us out in the back end with the addition of Carlo.
Who looked good last night.
Yeah. So the first one is, what is the long-term answer with the forward lines? Because we mixed it up last night. You brought Domi up to the first line with Matthews and Nyes. Marner played with Tavares and McMahon, and Nylander played with Lawton and Yarncroke. So maybe that spreads it out a little bit.
I think it spreads it out, and I think that's like better. I think it would be a colossal mistake to lose Nylander. I think Nylander, you try and make a Maple Leaf for his career.
Well, he's going to be.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where I start to look at the core four, it's you probably need to really readjust Riley. I think money does make sense. I think that like he's falling off. I think that like that if you can get someone else in there who does his job better for better money as well, that's gonna help. That won't fix it.
Yeah.
You seriously over the long term need to consider whether Matthews and Marner are your guys. Because right now it feels so bad to stare at those guys and be like, I unfortunately don't think Mitch is going to get it done in the playoffs. I think that, and I've held on to hope so badly, but I just don't. I think he's too easily bullied. I think he can look really good and he can put up numbers, and that's fine in the regular season. And I think that helps you secure a position in the playoffs. But I think he's too easily shut down. If you even honestly like put a McAvoy on him, like it's not gonna feel good. If Boston can get a few parts, that doesn't feel good. Matthews, just cover the guy. He's like force him into zones where he doesn't score, like those perimeter areas where you just clapper home one time at home. You just cover him. That's a lot of his game, and there's not enough threat on those lines to where you do draw guys away, where you have to force them because that's the makeup of the line doesn't support that. So unfortunately, I really do think something has to change at the top end still. And I think we wanted it to work so badly. You wanted Berube to be able to come in and tweak some things, and still have Matthews scoring 70 fucking goals and have Marner look really good.
I don't need Matthews to score 70 goals. I just need to win. That's all I care about.
Yeah. But I don't think that and part of it goes back to is Berube's style of play the play that we can agree is the right way of hockey to get a cup. If that's the case, Matthews or Marner, one of you, unfortunately, probably has to go somewhere else.
It would be Marner because Matthews is already locked in.
Then you kind of have to, unfortunately, regardless of, and it's a contract year, and I'm happy for the guy. Go get your money. I don't think the point of hockey is not to get highlights or to get points. It's to win the Stanley Cup. I unfortunately am finally ready to maybe admit, unless something dramatically changes in the playoffs this year, and Marner somehow pops the fuck off and has found his hunger with the Four Nations or whatever gets him going, unless that's dramatically changed, I think you are that your hand is being forced to probably let him go.
Now, to play devil's advocate, the grass isn't always greener.
Correct. Because who the hell else are you going to go get?
Now, I have been critical of Marner, and I would have said at the beginning of the season I want him to go. I'm not necessarily off that stance. We were praising Marner a little bit because of what happened at the Four Nations. Now, looking at it this way, and actually I believe this goes for McDavid as well at that tournament. Not at McDavid, not as much as Marner, but still, but I would say in the final, I would say it goes for McDavid as well. Marner came up with a couple of clutch plays.
Yeah.
And that's what we want to see.
Couple in particular.
Outside of that, he didn't do much for me.
If he didn't get that assist in the finals, are we even talking about how much he learned?
Just like I don't think McDavid did much, but again, in the final, I thought McDavid had good outings in other games, but in the final he was quiet to me.
Yeah.
Especially, I would say in the 2 U.S. games, McDavid was quiet to me. Outside of the goal in the first period of the first game and the overtime winner.
Yeah.
He didn't do much to me.
Agreed.
He was good in the other 2 games. But not to get off track here, we're talking about Marner. McDavid did create a little more than what Marner did at that tournament.
Yes.
I will say.
A few more single-handed.
Yeah.
He's the guy who just.
And McDavid's level is way higher than Marner's. Marner. Okay, when you're playing for Canada, you're playing for the U.S. Those are probably 2 of the best possible teams that could be put on ice in the world at the moment. Okay.
I think we both agree Marner should have been on that team.
Marner should be on the team 100%. My point is Marner can hide in a game that's full of superstars. He can have bad nights because there's plenty of other guys there to pick up the slack. The Leafs don't have that.
No.
He needs to be on it night in and night out. Especially come playoff time because we don't have the depth. And listen, it's not entirely his fault we don't have the depth, but it kind of is. It kind of is those guys' fault because they decided we want that upper echelon money. And I get it. It's Ontario. Taxes are a little high.
This is a business too.
I get that. I understand that. Everyone's going to go get more money. But if Marner would have gone out in his first contract and taken what Nylander got, or in that area, even maybe a little bit more, I'd be okay with it. Yeah. And then he said, coming up to this contract, I want a big raise. I'd be okay with that. But because he demanded out of his rookie deal, he demanded $11 million. Am I going to sit here and say that Marner is an $11 million player?
And it probably dramatically changes the roster we have today if he had not done that. If he had done a 7 or 8,
yeah.
We would have probably.
And Matthews took big money too. But listen, there's a big difference here.
Way more justifiable based on that.
Matthews' performance was higher than Marner's. Matthews is also a center, and he's a goal scorer. Those are the things that pay in the NHL.
You can put the puck in the net. That's pretty much how you win the game.
And you need to win the cup. You're building around center. You're building around goaltending. It's great to have good wingers. They're not the linchpin of your team.
They're nice to have.
Yeah, they are. I don't get me wrong. There's some great wingers out there that are key parts. Like Kachuk in Florida is a key part of Florida, right? But they have a good spine. They have Barkov. They have Bennett. Lundell's a very good, very, very good third line center.
Spoke about this last night.
Yeah, very solid on the back end. Good goaltending. The Leafs historically have not been solid on the back end. They have not had good goaltending, and they don't have center depth after Matthews and Tavares.
Yeah. Do you think it's gone overkill with the shift towards defensiveness in the roster? Because we have improved dramatically, like
over the whole season defensively. Yeah. I think
we're not losing, 6-5.
So this is my second point. Stolars and Wall played out of their minds to start the year,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not that they've been bad, but they've come back down to earth a little bit.
Yeah.
Both of them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not to say they're letting in brutal goals night in, night out, and they're not losing the games for the team. The team isn't playing well in front of them. They're not the reason we're losing, but they're not getting the same play in net as what they were earlier in the year. And there's still time to figure it out. There's still plenty of time.
They've started Stolars back to back a couple times
It
now.
seems that Stolars is the guy, and Stolars did make a ton of good saves last night. He actually did.
He played really
He
well.
did play really well. It wasn't his best game against Florida.
No.
Wall, since Stolars has been back, hasn't played terrific.
I think there's
Again, not nothing like egregious that it's like his fault we're losing games.
no. They're starting to test the waters with who are we going to go into the
Yeah,
playoffs.
it seems Stolars is the guy at the top at this point. But I think that maybe papered over some cracks.
Yeah.
Because yes, the defensive game is a lot better, and maybe it hasn't been as good recently, which is leading to leaking more goals, and maybe the goaltending isn't looking as good. But the goaltending was so lights out to start the year from both guys
Grabbing a puck with his bare hands.
that it's like Stolars when Wall was out to start the year was terrific, and then when Stolars was out, Wall was terrific.
Yeah.
And then since Stolars has come back, it's kind of been meh from both. Not bad, but I think it papered over some cracks.
Are you just tired, guys? Like, is the whole team just exhausted?
You're gonna go through this in the dog days of the season. You would prefer it to come in January and December over March
Right before
because
a
you
big break?
want to get a little bit of momentum going into the playoffs. Now you still have some time to do it. There's still a little bit of time, but it's got to start pretty soon.
You've got 6 weeks. Pretty much.
Probably less.
And end to mid-April they start?
What's the last day of the season here?
Because it just, I don't know. They do look just a little unenthused,
So it
a little
is.
sluggish.
You have less than 5 weeks, just under 5 weeks. So you have about a month, we'll say.
This has to be a turning point, and it's not a okay. You need to go win out this season bad, but it's like you need to win most of your games moving forward.
Yeah.
You don't need to win every game,
Yeah.
but you need to win most. Not even for like the placement, because whoever you play,
It's not the placement. It's gonna be tough. Your division's hard.
It's the mentality and the attitude.
Yeah, and it's just momentum going into the playoffs.
Time to figure out if you guys want it.
There's teams that have come into the playoffs that haven't looked great all year. I think St. Louis in 2019 is probably the best example.
Yeah.
Horrible at the start of the year, really good in the second half of the year, and they rode that momentum all the way to the cup. There's times to get good. When you watch, I'll give you an example in another sport. College basketball, when they pick the bracket, which is tonight, when they pick the bracket, or even college football, college hockey, college baseball, when they pick the final bracket at the end of the season, the teams that have looked better at the end have higher chances of making the tournament than teams that look better in the beginning.
Yeah.
That's just kind of like a rule of thumb. And those teams maybe ride that momentum to winning. In all sports, this isn't just hockey, right?
You gotta believe in yourself. You gotta want it. If any one of those components isn't there, you can want it and not believe in yourself, or you can believe in yourself and not want it.
I think, listen, like Lawton's coming in, it's a very different team than what he's used to.
Yeah.
He's only ever played for one team, just like Carlos only ever played for one team. So there's a little bit of you need to let them bet in a little bit.
Carlos figured it out. I think he played really, he let him fly last night. He had some scoring.
Carlo is the type of defenseman, if you don't hear his name, he's doing his job.
Lawton almost looked frustrated last night. He looked unhappy. He did, and not like I got outplayed. He looked like almost a little confused out there on the ice.
It's different. It's a different system. I think on D, the system might be different, but the job is essentially the same, especially if you're a defensive guy.
Yeah.
If you're a defensive guy, even if your team is super offensive, your job is mostly still the same. It's not really changing that much. Up front, there's a lot of things that could change. I think that Lawton Lawton can play both center and wing. He has played both. They've mixed him up in Philly and even in Toronto in the first couple games. He has played wing a little bit.
Yeah.
But he's here to be a center because we desperately need center depth.
Mhm.
And I think the Nylander thing was maybe a thing to try and get that third line going, because Matthews can drive his own line. Tavares and Marner together is enough to drive a line,
Yeah.
and then Nylander can drive a line.
Mm-hmm.
And then Lawton can just focus on doing what he does. I'm not going to rule the guy out yet. Like, we still have tons of time here.
Do you test moving Lawton up the line? Move John down?
I don't think it's an issue at center. I think it's an issue at wing.
Yeah.
We talked about the second line left wing thing.
Because I think,
and we talked about, and like that third line has been like a lot of the season McMahon, Robertson, and Domi. And there's times where it looks great. It looks solid. They're scoring. It's great. But then when you come up against a team like Florida, you come up against a team like Tampa, Ottawa, all those gauntlet teams in the West that are big and physical and good defensively, that line's going to get eaten alive.
yeah.
It's an issue of, it's just depth. It's still depth. It's still the same problem. And you're handcuffed. If you wanted to move Marty, you couldn't because he has a no move.
This is a very, regardless of how deep the Leafs go, this is a very important offseason.
Marner has a choice to make. Now, I'll bring this up right now. So we didn't really touch on this last week. We were really busy with the deadline stuff. So it was said after that the Leafs asked Marner about a deal to Carolina for Rantanen.
Yeah.
Because the Leafs asked Carolina what their asking price would be, and they said they want Marner, and they wouldn't do anything else. I don't think that Tree was going in and saying, we want to trade you. I think people are over
Too much
reacting.
narrative.
They're making it more than what it is.
Yeah.
I think Tree is covering his bases and saying to Marner, if you want out, if you don't want to stay here,
let us know.
I have an opportunity to get you to another good team and get us a good player in return. If you want to move it now, and because you don't want to come back here, then let's do it now. And it's Marner's right, and he said no because he has a full no move clause. That's his right.
If he wanted to,
if he wanted to move, would he? And maybe he still does. He just didn't want to go to that place. Possible.
Would have been a good place to go to.
It would have been a decent place to go. It kind of fits him a little bit. I don't think Marner wants to leave, but I think Marner will leave if he doesn't get what he wants.
And what does he want?
In terms of money.
14? Because there's the number you say, and then there's the number you want.
We talked about this with Rand, and he kind of played himself into a corner here. He only ended up getting 12.
Yeah.
Again, granted, it's in a no state tax, so you're getting the full 12.
And he openly said earlier in the season, I think I can get 14 on the free market.
That's maybe not 14. I think he wanted what McKinnon makes, which is 13.25, I think. Or 13, in that range. From like 12.75 to 13.25, something like that.
So what are you willing?
Does that asking Marner, does that affect him or the team? Do you think that's something that's playing on their minds? Because the Marner stuff kind of cooled down for most of the season. It was a big thing in the offseason. Marner's camp has always said they don't want to negotiate in the season, during the season. So when the season is done, they can start negotiating. And there's been plenty of guys who have said I don't want to negotiate in season. And then they come and at the end of the season, they still sign with that team.
It's kind of funny because our top heavy guys, they're all each other knows.
Yeah.
Like Nylander, Marner, Matthews, Riley,
even Tavares. It's been a
yeah.
very big chunk of his career here.
I think they like playing each other, like with
Yeah,
each other. I think they enjoy each other's
yeah.
company. I think that it's nice to have those bonds. It is going to be a test of who knows what they're talking about if they're talking about this because they may be so uncomfortable with it that
I get the idea that the Leafs want to negotiate and the Marner camp doesn't.
Mhm.
That's what they're saying. I don't think it's a good. Listen, it's too. I think it's too far gone at this point in the season to negotiate. You're way
Yeah,
too deep in
yeah,
the season. You're not negotiating a new contract in the playoffs.
no,
At this point, you're waiting till the season's done. Again, Tree was covering his bases. He wasn't telling Marner that we want you to leave. I don't necessarily think Rantanen is a terrific fit with the players that we have, but that's a player that can play a playoff style that has proven that he can do it in the
yeah.
playoffs.
Is it any indication to? Do you get any sort of good or bad juju the fact that Marner said no, I don't want to go?
Like I said, I think he wants to stay, but on his own terms.
Okay.
I think if he doesn't get what he wants, he's not going to stay. If Marner has a decision to make,
Yeah.
there's two scenarios here. One is whatever he does from now to the end of the season, whether they do shit and lose in the first round or pop off and go all the way and win the cup. He can say, I want to be in Toronto. I'm here for the long haul. I'm going to take a little bit less. I'll take more than he's going to get a raise, which is not something that I have entirely an issue with.
It's how much.
It's how much of a raise you're going to get, and because you've started so high from this at this point, I don't want that big ass raise because you're not worth that. I get the cap's going up, but this is the point. The cap isn't going. We don't want the cap to go up so that the big guys who are already making over 10 million get more money. We want it so we could pay guys down the lineup that can help us.
Mhm.
That's the whole point of it. If Marner says I'll start it at where Nylander makes to 12 and a half. I'm okay with that.
Okay.
I wouldn't say I'm okay with that, but I can accept that. I will have a hard time accepting anything more. Austin Matthews, whether you think he's the guy to lead us to the cup or not, he's a center and he's a goal scorer. And those are the two things that pay money in this league. So he would be the first guy out of all these guys to get paid. Now he's signed, Nylander signed long term. Tavares his money's going down, not up, because of his age. Nyes will go up, so that will take a little bit out of it. But that's part of the caps getting higher. With Nyes going up and Tavares going down, I think it just evens itself out with those two. It's after that. So Marner, you can take $1 million or $2 million more, and you can stay and help this team win, and you'll be a hero forever. If Marner takes a little bit less than what he wants, take $1 million raise or $1.5 million raise, and stays in Toronto, and even if they don't win, but he's here and he works and he tries, and if they don't win a cup, he'll still be a hero here.
He'll still be the guy that
This is a hometown kid. If Marner goes in the playoffs and whether he pops off or plays like shit and then demands the big money, whether he gets it from Toronto or somewhere else, he'll always be hated in Toronto.
The analogy would be like in the corporate world would be like, are you a company guy?
Yeah.
Are you willing to be a
Yeah.
company guy?
And listen, I get people will say, well, if you were offered more money, you would take it too. That's all well and good, but I work an everyday job. I don't
Yeah.
make. I'm not making money in the millions.
Mm-hmm.
Is it really going to affect Marner's life that much if he makes 11.5 million instead of 13 million?
No.
That million and a half, 1 million, $1.5 million is really going to affect your life that much.
Yeah.
No, it's not. You're good. You're set for life here. You have no worries. Absolutely zero.
So do you want to win the Stanley Cup?
What are your priorities?
Yeah. And it boils down to just that. What's your priorities?
Do you think this is affecting the team?
Um
the negotiation and or the fact that he was asked about a trade.
Maybe the asking about the trade, maybe the money, because if he's asking, what is Matthews at?
13.25, I think.
So he's asking for 14. It's like you want to be the highest paid player on this team.
I don't know.
Like,
I don't know what his ask is.
right, but that's the number that at least in the media that they're throwing around.
The last time he signed, it was I want to make around what Matthews makes. The last time these two were up, and it was the same situation where Matthews was up a year before Marner.
And I think there's a little bit of delusion in that, and I think it'd be
or vice versa, whatever it was. I don't remember.
I think it'd be a little bit hard when it's like if you have a colleague who's like, I think I'm worth this much, and everyone around you's going, what?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
And I think that affects team culture.
Yeah.
I think culture is extremely important on a team. I think that the asking of the trade less so. And
he's just covering his bases. Tree's covering his bases. He's not telling Marner. He's saying, we want you here, but if you don't want to be here, we need to act now.
If anything, I think that maybe helps a little bit because I think
maybe it's a kick in the ass.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think maybe there's something lingering there with the, are you seriously asking for this much money? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
And that can absolutely drive down, like, I don't know, everyone's value. Because you are, like, do you want Tanev? He doesn't deserve a little raise? Like, there's a lot of guys who you rely on in order to look as good as you do, that if you go with an insane amount of money, it's a little bit of a fuck you, I'm getting mine.
Yeah.
That ruins a team.
Yeah.
How much that is playing into what's happening right now, who knows?
Yeah.
But I think it's kind of unavoidable for someone to come across as extremely greedy and saying, I'm just going to get mine. I don't care about you guys. I don't care what's left for you guys. I don't care about, and especially if you do have a like culture of even if most of the team is like, no, we're here to win a Stanley Cup. We're all making phenomenal money. We're playing a sport for a living. That's a pretty good fucking place to be.
Even the guys on the league minimum, you're good.
Steven Lawrence, I think $875.
That's a lot of money.
You're a top one. You're a 1%er, buddy, by a lot.
Yeah.
And so it's like to kind of be like, okay, we're doing this for the love of the sport. Hopefully, there's some element of that. Maybe it's not the only element.
I would hope so if you're playing at this level.
It should be a large one.
Yeah.
And because you want to be competitive.
Yeah.
Competitiveness is what makes everything stand out. It's the backbone of society, allegedly. But it's like the competition, the desire and will to win is what this is all for. It's to prove you're the best. It's to prove that you know how to get it done, to go through adversity, to show grit and determination and commitment. If you have guys who are making a quarter to 10% to less than 10% of the money that you're making.
Yeah.
And they're like, I just want to go win. And you got one guy who's standing in the way of that because he wants 13 million versus 12.2.
And you're not willing to go through a wall for the rest of your team.
Yeah.
Because that's been the argument, whether it's true or not, that's been the argument about you.
Then what are we doing here? Yeah. Then why are you here?
Yeah.
Go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Go get your money, but we're here to win.
Yeah. I'm conflicted because, again, he's a very talented player. And I do believe you can win and still play a hard-nosed style of hockey with that type of player on your roster.
Yeah.
But can you win with two?
So who's the second?
A Nylander.
It doesn't feel good to have two.
Here's what I'll say, okay? So Nylander's locked in, so Nylander's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Historically, Marner is a better defensive player.
Kills a lot.
He kills penalties. I don't necessarily agree with that. I don't think he's as good as people make him out to be on the penalty kill. And that's all well and good. But Nylander, people don't think Nylander did it the right way because he held out, blah, blah, blah. but they didn't cave on Nylander like they caved on Marner. Nylander got what he deserved on his first deal, and then played to get his second deal. Marner was gifted something he didn't deserve on his first deal. Also, because you've done that, why does Marner need to show up in the playoffs? He doesn't need to do anything in the playoffs.
He's already getting all his
He can score 100 points in the regular season, and that'll be his argument. I'm a 100-point guy. Yeah, I haven't showed up in the playoffs, but it's coming. It's coming. Don't worry, it's coming. Whereas Nylander has had moments in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And listen, there isn't a player in this Leafs roster that has had enough moments in the playoffs. There isn't one. But out of all of them, he's probably had the most.
Out of all of them, Nylander is the one that stands out to be like, okay, there's at least an argument for he shows up.
And he's the guy that did it the right way.
Fucking O'Reilly came in and was the best player that playoff year in terms of trying to get the team across the line. He was old and he got there 3 weeks earlier. Like, how is that acceptable? How has that been the result?
That's where it's kind of like, I'll give you an example where it did work, because I did play devil's advocate and say the grass isn't always greener, and you want to appreciate the talent you have, because again, these are extremely talented athletes.
Yeah.
But it's not all about talent. Florida had a very good team. Florida was coming, but Florida couldn't get past Tampa. Florida knew that was the team we need to beat if we want to go win. And they were sitting there and they were saying, what are we going to do here? And the player became available that still puts up points, but is a mean, nasty son of a bitch to play against. And they said, we are going to give up this player. He's a 100-point player, but he's not a playoff guy. This is Florida, in case I wasn't clear. And this is Huberdeau. And you have seen what has happened to Huberdeau in Calgary. Not saying that, again, Marner is younger than what Huberdeau was in this situation, so I don't think Marner would fall off a cliff like that. I think he'd still, the regular season, he would still put up points. He'd put up numbers. But Tkachuk came into Florida, and that was the catalyst. Yeah. That was the catalyst. You already had Barkov. You already had depth on the back end. Finally, Bob figured it out in net. But the Tkachuk deal was the catalyst.
It feels like you had someone who came in and set the tone, and everyone fell in line. Everyone was down for it.
Yeah. So it can happen. Now somebody has to become available to do something like that, and maybe it wouldn't be. Again, you can't trade him. So if Marner's going, you're getting nothing for him.
And there's only so many Tkachuk boys out there.
Yeah, exactly. It would be more of a, if Marner's going, we can spread the money throughout the lineup thing. Yeah. Whereas basically Huberdeau for Tkachuk, you're just, the money's staying what it was. You're getting a player that's more playoff style. I don't know. Basically you have to wait and see now, because Marner's here for the rest of the season. If he can get it done when it matters, then I'll shut the fuck up. But the way they're playing right now, and this includes Matthews and Nylander and everyone, but because you're so top heavy, this is, you need to be the guys that get it done. Because you have taken this money, the responsibility falls on you now.
Who do you think needs to set the tone? Because I think the Tkachuk point out is a really good one in terms of that guy just fits that culture so well. And looking at the Leafs roster, there's no one in there who is the personality and the in your face and the I'm just gonna get.
Domi pretends he is.
And it doesn't need to be mean and nasty, but it has to be we're about to go win this game. If you're not down for that, don't bother showing up. It is the Kobe Bryant of
I'm gonna carry you with me. listen, like Carlo and Lawton seem to have that like style of play, but they're not like high end enough players to
Yeah.
be those
Yeah.
guys. I think they can play a role in that. Um, at
'Cause it
this,
has to be
it's
one of
not
the big guys.
it's not Tavares at this point. It's
It's
not
not.
Riley at this point. It's I think it's Matthews,
And he needs to kind of take control of this team. If you this needs to be your team, you've got this
especially
team.
because he got the C this year.
Yeah. This needs
Matthews
to be different.
Matthews is the one. Um, but Marner because he's a hometown boy too. There's something there too.
I agree. I view personality wise, Matthews, this is a big kind of this needs to be a shift.
I don't listen. We're not asking Matthews and Marner to go and Nylander to go out and be a fuck you in your face. That's not the type of player they are. That's not going to change.
No.
But you need to be willing to go into the dirty areas to do it.
I'm a goal scoring superstar. I'm also first to the puck.
Now listen, Matthews has been going into dirty areas a lot more this year. And scoring dirtier goals. My point earlier was just that I don't on the opportunities that he would score from the outside, he doesn't seem to be shooting this year. That's my only point.
Yeah.
I don't have an issue with his overall game as much as a lot of other people do.
I don't and to earn that, take it and make this your team. It doesn't even need to be you're scoring the most amount of goals in the playoffs.
Yeah.
It needs to be you're setting the tone. And every single time you're out there,
leading by example.
If you want to be on my line, you're going to step up to my level, and you need to find that next gear.
It's not the NHL isn't what it used to be, right? Your captain was your leader before. Now it's who your best player is your captain for the most part.
Yeah.
For the most part. For teams that are like high level, it's your best player. That's what it is.
Yeah. Winnipeg may be the only exception.
Yeah. And
that's the only one
that I would argue that Winnipeg doesn't have like high end talent.
We were just talking about the ginger run yesterday, and you're going to disrespect.
I think Kyle Connor's a very good hockey player, but he's a winger, and and what does he do outside of score goals?
He goes on ginger runs.
No, he doesn't.
In his spare time, you show.
Okay. That's my point. Winnipeg can't win because they have depth at forward, but there isn't a high like Scheifele's a very good player. Don't get me wrong, but he's not a high end player. I'm talking like the top echelon of players. That's what I'm talking here. Connor and Scheifele are very good players. Morrissey's a very good player. The only player on that roster that is like upper echelon is Hellebuck.
Yeah. So
we're gonna see. We've talked about it, I think, long enough.
Yeah.
I think we need to go elsewhere.
Yeah, okay. This is gonna be another 3-hour one.
We're gonna see what happens at the end of the season and into the playoffs, and that's what's gonna determine everything because we can't change anything.
Yeah.
They have to want to. Bad news for Florida.
Oops.
Aaron Ekblad has been suspended 20 games for violating the NHL's performance-enhancing substances program. Now, clearly, he was injured or hurt, whatever, and somebody gave him something. I don't know what happened, and it happened to be illegal.
Hey, buddy, I watch UFC. There's a bunch of guys who just have these topical creams. They have no idea what's in them.
Yeah.
If you're John Jones, you went to a swimming pool apparently and absorbed a microgram of a performance enhancer. I don't care. Shitty. Hockey seems to have cleaned up a lot in terms of PEDs.
I don't think hockey were really PEDs was never really too much of an issue in hockey.
It's not real. Like maybe I don't know. You go into like EPO and stuff for like, but it's so cardio heavy that like size. It's not like a baseball. It's not a football or big fucking muscles and it's more sort of like recovery was the allegation.
So Florida got Seth Jones. It was good timing. Because you got a right-handed shot defenseman in there.
Yeah.
A big body
too.
Yeah. So he can kind of hold the fort.
Yeah.
Because 20 games is the rest of the season, is it not?
Yeah.
How many games does Florida have left to play? Is he going to miss playoff games?
He may miss like 1 or 2 in the first round. 'Cause I think
Let's see.
earlier we said at least for the Leafs it was 14
So
games left.
standings, Florida's played 67 games, so that's 15 games left.
So he's missed one.
And I don't know how many he's missed so far.
One or two.
And it was just this week, so they didn't play 5
So
games in a week. So he'll
miss one or two.
he'll miss one or two in the playoffs. I was gonna wait for this, but I'm gonna throw this out there. And I'm not 100% sure if I agree with it or not, but I'm kind of on the fence about it.
Okay.
Everyone is ranting and raving about Florida right now after the deadline. Is Florida in as good of a situation as everyone seems to think they are?
Okay. Really fun conversation here.
So, because I'm just going to throw this out there first. So now Ekblad's out for 20 games.
Yeah.
So, and he'll miss a couple playoff games. And then you're throwing him back in. He hasn't played in over a month. Jones is coming in. It's a completely new team. He's played on a bad team for a long time. Marshall's coming in, but he's hurt. Kachuk's out for the regular season. He's not coming back to the playoffs. And I know that like teams like Vegas have abused it and it's worked, but all the other teams that have tried to do it, it hasn't worked because you're coming in cold.
I am gonna throw something out there. I understand the recognition and notoriety and character that Marchand is.
Yeah.
Marchand is not the oh boy, we just picked up a superstar
No.
who
No. He's 37.
I don't think it's for winning a cup. Is he going to be fun to watch? Sure. Does he fit in Florida? Sure. Did he make the team like significantly better? I'm not really convinced.
Listen, Florida is already good enough with the roster they have.
Yeah.
They didn't need to go out and get superstars, right? And Marchand, the consensus is that it's going to be a Marchand, Bennett, Kachuk line when they're all healthy. That's the consensus. Now we'll see what happens because Marchand and Kachuk aren't playing yet. Now Marchand will be back way before the playoffs.
Frankly, I'm almost wondering if putting all the problem children on the same line is not going to bait you into taking an astronomical amount of penalties.
But it could bait the other team in taking a lot of penalties too.
I just
and those are the best guys that know how to do
they
that.
know how to walk the line.
Yeah,
I understand.
yeah.
I don't know. I'm wondering if the shit disturbing line isn't a little bit more bait.
I'll say this. I think if Florida was in a situation where they were a good team but they hadn't gotten over the line yet, I think it helps a lot more.
Yeah.
But because they are everyone's gunning for you. You're the champs. Everyone's gunning for you. Everyone's coming for you. That's different. Now, what is good for them is that they don't play in the West.
Mm-hmm.
I think if they played in the West, it would be a much bigger problem, but they play in the East. That's not to say there aren't, like, listen, we're harping on the Leafs here. The Leafs still have a ton of talent. They're not going to be an easy team to play against. For as much as they say the Leafs struggle in the playoffs, the Leafs usually go 7 games when they lose a series.
Yeah.
Tampa, you don't need to say anything else. Like, there's tons of pedigree there. Washington's having a terrific year. Ottawa's no slouch. Carolina's no slouch. Even whoever gets the last wild card isn't going to be a bad team. Like it's the NHL. There's no easy outs.
Right.
It's just not the West. But I think the Ekblad thing opens the conversation up more, because your depth on D isn't what it used to be. It's still solid, but it isn't what it was. And Bob playing out of his mind like he has the last 2 years. You're going to rely a lot on that as well.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of on the fence. I'm not saying that Florida's going first round exit, but first of all, Marshall's a new player, and you're coming in hurt, so you're not going to have chemistry with the team. I think he fits the style of play perfectly. There's not going to be an issue there. I don't think it'll take too long.
Yeah.
But like Kachuk, we talk about Kachuk being a catalyst for that team. He's not coming in until the playoffs, and he's coming in. He hasn't played, and he won't have played since mid-February.
Yeah.
We're talking mid-April if he comes back that early.
Yeah.
And then Ekblad's coming in cold. Marshall's coming in cold. Kachuk's coming in cold. I'm not going to say Bob's going to be bad, but he's not exactly getting younger.
So I'm just looking up his stats here. So he is still like
He's still very good. Don't get me
he's
wrong.
still rocking a
But
.906 save percentage.
yeah, listen,
GAA 2.5.
Bob is still very good. It's just the fact that he has played so lights out the last two playoffs.
Yeah.
Is that sustainable? Year in, year out. You're playing long into June the past couple of years. Is that sustainable for Florida?
I think the injuries are probably more of a
Issue. Yes, I would agree.
I think Bob is fine.
It's not that he's not going to be fine. I'm not saying he's going to come in and shit the bed. I'm just throwing it out there. Even like you look at Vasilevsky, yeah, they made the final, but he wasn't the same that third final as he was the first two. It's a lot of hockey. You've played well into June for 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
It's hard, man.
I think the biggest blessing was he wasn't playing in Four Nations. I think if he was
Yes, yeah,
playing in Four
yeah, that
Nations,
helps. Yeah,
makes it a little bit easier. He
yeah,
actually he did get a break
yeah,
physically. Um, I think the injuries and I think calling out like you're kind of just hoping that the chemistry's there
yeah,
with Bennett and Chuck Marchand.
yeah.
Um, Ekblad 20 games a long. Is he allowed to practice? Not with the team.
I don't think so.
Right.
I don't think so.
So you're kind of hoping he can pick up exactly where we left off. Does use any more topical creams. I think that is far more of a concern if I'm a Florida fan, which I fuck am not. Um, it's interesting. I think it is relevant. I don't know how relevant, but it is a relevant conversation
Yeah,
to be having.
yeah. Because a lot of people were saying, "Oh, Florida's one of the big winners at the deadline."
Maybe
On a name basis, yeah.
that's what I mean. Like,
Listen,
but 30.
Marshaw's going to help you in the playoffs. There's no doubt.
He's how old? 37.
37. He's not going to up your point tally an enormous amount.
No, but
But it's a know-how thing. He knows how to win.
yeah, and frankly, he's always better in the playoffs than he is in
exactly.
the regular season.
And maybe it comes a time, maybe Marshall plays on the second line, but then when Kachuk comes back, they want to separate the pests, and maybe Marshall goes down to the third line.
I think that's a real possibility
because your third line's still really good.
Yeah,
Lundell,
I think Lundell,
Rodriguez, whoever,
I actually really
Simskevich,
who's heating up.
Yeah.
Great pickup by the way. If you haven't already in fantasy.
I had him and dumped him.
Oh, thank you. I think Marchand with Lundell is actually a really
It's interesting. Yeah.
Line to see what happens.
We'll see.
You got a guy who can show some veteran leadership.
But with Kachuk out, I would imagine Marchand plays with Bennett.
What have we? We don't know any specifics on the Kachuk injury, obviously.
I believe it's groin.
How much does that linger?
I don't know. We'll see.
You need your.
We'll see. But I mean, the guy played in the cup final with a broken sternum, so.
You know, I hope he falls off. No, he doesn't. I don't wish harm on Kachuk. I'm sorry, that was too far.
Yeah.
I don't like you. I think you're a jerk, and I think your haircut sucks. Other than that, yeah, you're a fun hockey player.
Yeah.
I think you're probably going to pick up where you left off, and you know how to play playoff hockey.
It's not that he won't know how to play. It's just like a little bit of chemistry. These are like main guys that aren't in the lineup for a long period of time.
What's different with this is, and like I understand it's a different tournament, but it is like he tried to play that last game and had to sit on the bench.
Yeah.
If he did not absolutely have to, you know he wanted to be in that final. So how bad is this?
Yeah.
Versus what he dealt with previously.
We'll see.
It is more of a concern. Yeah.
We'll see.
Just saying.
Yep. Staying in the East, not good news in Jersey. That's just piling on now. So we
tank the rest of the year. You guys have no shot.
Hughes was already announced last week. He's done for the season. Dougie Hamilton is now going to be out for the regular season with a lower body injury. It sounds like he could be back for the playoffs, but they're not sure when it would be.
Doesn't even matter.
Jersey's in big trouble.
Time to go to the shore. There's nothing to do on the ice. Go to the shore, guys. It's summer now.
Now listen, I think they have a big enough cushion with there's not enough. Like, there's too few games for them to completely implode here and miss the playoffs.
It doesn't even matter. Honestly, my genuine opinion, make the playoffs or not, doesn't matter. You're being exited in 4. I don't think you get a. I don't think you get a
4
game.
might be a stretch,
I
but
don't think you guys. You guys. Sorry, New Jersey, you're cooked. You're absolutely done. Don't even bother. Don't buy a ticket.
listen,
Sell your season tickets if you can. There's no point in showing up.
they had a little bit of a gauntlet off the Four Nations. Uh, this was their schedule off the Four Nations. It's like a Dallas loss, Nashville win, but then Colorado loss, Utah win, Vegas loss, Dallas loss, Winnipeg loss. So those are some tough games coming out. And that's pretty much saying, like, when you're playing good teams, New Jersey's not going to do well. They won a few in a row. They beat Philly, they beat Columbus, they beat Edmonton, and then they lost to Pittsburgh 7-3 yesterday.
Let's go get Jonathan Marchessault for Maple Leafs. Let's just go do it.
That's random.
Yeah. I was thinking Nashville.
Yeah. We're done with Nashville, all right?
Okay.
Nashville doesn't exist anymore for the rest of this season. Yeah, New Jersey's just not going to have the top end guys that they need, and that doesn't sound like they even know if Hamilton.
Did we say last week? Dawson Mercer is your second line center. I'm sorry, you've got some salad up top. I have no idea what you guys are hoping for here. You're done.
They picked up what's his name from Pittsburgh, and he's actually been decent. Cody Glass, who's now playing second line center.
Okay.
Mercer's playing third line center now.
You've got the glass. It's not
Yeah.
breaks.
Yeah. He has been playing well, but listen, like you said, I don't think it matters. But there's some people saying out there that New Jersey's not going to make the playoffs. I think that's a stretch.
That's a stretch.
Yeah.
I just think that
because if that were to happen, you would need one of New York and Columbus to go on an absolute heater, and then somebody else in that East division, like wild card race, to go on a heater too.
I think you're faced with a similar issue that we were talking about earlier, where it's just like, how defeating is it to be like, he's not even a question mark for the playoffs. It's fully he's out for the season.
Huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, that's just got to suck the air out of all your lungs.
Yeah, that's your best player, and then Hamilton's your best defenseman.
It's too tough.
Yeah,
it's too tough to rally around.
They would basically need Markstrom to just be God.
Yeah.
And
you're gonna need to beat Binnington and fucking that run.
Yeah. So New Jersey, we talked about them last week. We're not going to talk too long about them. Some tough news in Utah. They had some good news last week, keeping some players. Feel bad here. Connor Ingram has entered the player assistance program. He has talked about his issues with OCD, I believe it is, in the past. And I do know that his mom passed away earlier in the year, which is why he was out a little longer than what he was supposed to be. Yeah. When he was out. So hopefully he gets better soon.
That's tough.
Yeah, it's tough to hear. Vejmelka will obviously lead the way the rest of the season, and Utah will try and get in because it was a pretty like 50-50 split between the two goalies.
Physical battles are one thing.
Yeah,
battles are a whole different ballgame.
So hopefully he gets back. They're saying he could be back before the end of the year. But
whatever he needs,
whatever you need to do, you just get better. And be ready to go for next year.
Yeah, this goes beyond a game.
Yeah. And then another bad thing for Utah, Juuso Valimaki is out 8 to 9 months after ACL surgery. That hurts. Yeah, that hurts. Not like a top your lineup player, but he's a good depth piece.
Yeah.
So that hurts Utah a little bit. They have had some injury problems this year, especially on the back end. Okay. Couple signings here in net. Vegas extends goaltender Aiden Hill to a 6-year, $37.5 million deal. Comes out to 6.25.
That's good value.
AAV, solid value. And he's playing well, and hopefully he works out for Vegas. And then New York extends backup goalie Jonathan Quick to a 1-year, $1.55 million deal.
Good value.
Good value. Keeps him a good backup.
I know he's old, but
the only issue the Rangers don't have is goaltending. So this year,
backup Shesterkin for $1.5 million, and it's Jonathan Quick. That's pretty damn good.
Yeah. Okay. Ovechkin is 8 goals away.
Ovi, don't make yourself come back next year, dude.
Ovi is 8 goals away.
Do you think your prediction of he will finish tied is still the case?
Listen, it's possible. So he's 8 goals away, and Washington has 15 games left. So that's like he needs like half a goal a game. A little.
Yeah. If he gets just north of half a goal, then
Could you imagine? It's coming down to the wire here.
It'd be so funny.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he could do it for sure this year, though.
Yeah. Definitely doable. Make him earn it. Oh, and did you hear what he's doing for the goals?
Yeah, I did see that.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I did see that. You can announce it.
He's raising money for charity, is he not? I didn't read what charity.
I believe it is.
Let's make sure we get it right because it probably deserves to, even for our 4 viewers who tune in. It's worth the notoriety. If he ties, that's hockey gods.
I mean, Ovi's coming back next year, whether he breaks it or not.
Yeah.
So, as part of the Great Chase for Victory Over Cancer campaign, Ovechkin will donate an amount equal to his career goal total for every goal he scores during the remainder of his NHL career. He's teaming up with Hockey Fights Cancer and the V Foundation for Cancer Research
Awesome.
to raise awareness and funds for pediatric cancer research as he nears the total. So, and it's coming. It's coming fast. They said Gretzky's going to start going to the games when he gets within 5 goals.
Okay.
That's what I'm hearing anyway.
That'd be cool.
So, we'll see. I think 5 is kind of a stretch. I don't think he's going to score 6 in one game. I don't know.
I think you can probably make it less.
Like 3. Yeah. Okay. Elsewhere, did you see Brandon Montour the other night? The fastest overtime goal in NHL history.
I did see this.
Was this Friday night or last night?
Because who was it? It was against
Montreal, I believe.
And someone got caught sleeping on that face-off.
Seattle, where are you? No, it wasn't Friday. Was it Thursday? Where are you, Seattle? It was Wednesday.
That was brutal.
Yeah, so basically Utah did some scouting and they could see what Montreal has been doing off the opening face-off in overtime, and they were kind of jumping it a little bit, getting a little early. I think they were trying to win the draw and then get other players on the ice, like kind of the Leafs did with Camp last year.
Yeah.
Camp took a lot of draws and then we get off the ice immediately. And Seattle kind of jumped that, and Montour went right through on a breakaway. Fastest overtime goal in NHL history from a defenseman.
Yeah.
From Chatham, Ontario.
There you go.
Good for him. Not too much great news for Seattle this year. So Montreal's still in the mix. So that was a tough point to give up, especially they had a lead in that game too. They got a point, but okay. Just touch on Draisaitl's point streak. I think it's up to 17 now.
Is that record setting?
No.
I guess not with the Gretzky era.
No, I don't think it would be record setting, but
that's crazy good.
He has 100 points on the year. He's closing in on 50 goals. He is 2 behind McKinnon in the Art Ross race. So I believe it was 17 or 18. I can't find it, but yeah. So he's kind of been leading the way for Edmonton, and they're struggling at the moment. LA has passed them.
Really?
Yeah. So
to have a player that good on that much of a streak and still lose.
Yeah. McDavid isn't playing terrific.
Hey, Skinner squared. Wake up.
Skinner squared. Listen to their. We talk about top heavy in Toronto. Here's Edmonton. Draisaitl has 100 points. McDavid has 85 points, which I mean, you're saying McDavid's playing bad. He's got 85 points. It's still pretty damn good. And Bouchard's got 53 points in 66 games as a defenseman. So that's their third highest score, 53 points. That's the drop off from from 85 to 53. From second to third. At least the Leafs have like 4 or 5 guys. And after that, Nuge doesn't even have 40. Hyman doesn't even have 40.
One of the best things I ever did was sell high on Nuge.
Yeah. So can LA finally get home ice against Edmonton? It's looking like they're going to play each other again in the first round for the 4th year in a row. LA, could they finally get home ice?
Kopitar, go on a run, buddy.
Yeah. And the way Edmonton's playing is kind of similar to Toronto. Vegas, I think the Pacific runs through Vegas here.
Yeah.
And if Edmonton's still playing that way come playoff time,
no hope.
Vegas should have a pretty easy run to the conference final.
Yeah.
Again, no easy runs in the NHL, but okay, go to Pittsburgh because I don't think Dubas knows how to tank. Because they've kind of been good recently. But before we get to that, Marc-Andre Fleury has played his final game against Pittsburgh. It was in Minnesota. And in, of course, fashion, Crosby and Gino both scored on him in that game. And I believe Pittsburgh,
Gino did too?
Yeah, I believe Pittsburgh won 3-1. I believe Gino got 2 that night, actually.
Fleury probably pranked the room and got them
them all fired up, yeah. What day was this? I think it was earlier in the week. It's Tuesday, Wednesday, maybe? Or maybe it was Sunday, because we recorded during the day Sunday. Yeah, it was Sunday. And, Crosby got 2. Malkin got 1. Crosby had an empty netter. The player I wanted to talk about with Pittsburgh, we're not going to talk about Crosby this week.
Holy smokes.
We did mention his name, but that's not really. Tristan Jarry, since returning from the AHL, finally figuring it out. Since being recalled from the AHL, he has a 4-0 record, a 2.24 goals against average, a 930 save percentage, and his goals saved above expected is positive 3.28.
I don't know what book he read, but keep reading.
What the fuck happened? He was horrible.
Sent down to the minors.
Yeah.
Horrible.
Yeah. On a guy that's making over $5 million.
Replaced by a guy whose most notable skill set is scoring goalie goals.
Yeah. And this is what I mean. Like, everyone, like Philly, Pittsburgh, the Islanders, and Boston, everyone's kind of like, these guys are done.
Yeah.
They're all within 6 points of a playoff spot still.
Give me Columbus. Just give me Columbus.
Or Philly's 8, I guess, but.
Philly, I don't care.
Yeah.
Give me Columbus.
Yeah, Columbus is, like, it's just kind of like those 4 teams that's kind of like, they're not there.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like they sold off at the deadline, but they're really not that far over the playoffs. Dubas sells off the team, and now they start winning.
Send me Ari back out of the minors.
Oh, boy. Yeah, so Pittsburgh, I don't know. Them in Buffalo, what the fuck are you doing? And McKinnon not only reached 100 points in the season, I believe he reached 1,000 points on his career.
Wow.
So good for him. Kind of low key, but he has popped off the past couple years, and he could probably put among the all-time greats at this point.
Yeah.
A Stanley Cup, multiple 100-point seasons, personal awards. So good for McKinnon. Congrats. I believe he did it. I don't know if he got an assist or goal on it, but then it got called back for offside.
Come on, really?
It got called back, and then he did it again in the same game.
So he got to reach it twice.
Yeah, got to reach it twice. One thing I wanted to touch on, there's a similar topic to the Leafs and what is life like without Marner. Is Colorado better without Rantanen?
Yes.
Because they sure look amazing.
Like, not even, it's barely even a question.
They look amazing. And it's not so much it's on Rantanen.
No, because Rantanen's found some success in Dallas.
Because Rantanen was still playing well for Colorado.
Yeah.
You have depth throughout the lineup.
Yeah.
And Necas was popping off for Carolina this year. He started to slow down a little bit near the time he got traded, but he was popping off finally. But I think this fit is a lot better for Necas. Colorado fits his play style way better. Way better.
How's Nelson been?
I listen. I don't watch Colorado games.
No,
The only game I've seen is the game they play Toronto.
I'm just curious if he's picking up points here and there, because that was like a big pickup for them.
Yeah, but even if he's not, like he's a very good 200-foot player.
Yeah.
And has some experience. That's kind of what the Avs need, and that second line center was a big problem. And now they have their 4 centers. McKinnon's one of the best players in the league, if not the best.
Yeah.
Nelson's been a very good player for a long time, very solid second line center. Your third line center is now, what's his name? Coming from Charlie Coyle, coming from Boston. A very solid third line center. And then Jack Drury is your fourth line center, and I'd argue he's kind of a third line center.
Really good.
Yeah.
The fact that he's on the
Yeah. So Colorado looks in good shape. And kind of on the fly rebuild. I would agree. I think they look better, and it's a depth thing.
Yeah.
You've spread it out throughout the lineup.
It looks so smart.
And Nature's is a great fit.
Good. It's working out.
Yeah.
They found chemistry quickly.
Yeah.
Like, that's phenomenal.
Yeah. It's a great fit. Now, the only issue being is that Winnipeg is so far ahead, and Minnesota has fallen off a lot since Kaprizov's been out for so long.
Who's Colorado face?
Colorado and Dallas, it seems inevitable they're playing each other in the first round.
You've got a borderline Stanley Cup final quality first round.
Like, that should be a conference final.
That's
if not second round.
That's worth staying up for here in the Eastern.
Yeah. And at least those two are like kind of central, so it's not as late.
Yeah. You get some 8 o'clock starts, 9
o'clock starts. Yeah, it's not as bad. Yeah.
Holy smokes.
So Winnipeg, it's a good thing Winnipeg has that gap. They avoid that in the first round.
Hopefully no one's listening, but my productivity at work during playoffs is just absolutely abysmal.
Well, it's on a night. It's not like...
Oh, I mean, staying up till midnight.
True.
1 in the morning.
Very true. But yeah, that'll be if that is the series, that'll be a fun series, and it's looking like it will be because Minnesota isn't getting better, and Winnipeg's got a 10-point lead.
And to have Brandon playing Colorado.
And they're Brandon plays for Dallas.
Oh.
But we're talking 2 Stanley Cup contenders that are guaranteed to be eliminated in the first round. One of the two will be eliminated.
Whoever wins instantly becomes a heavy favorite to be at least in the conference.
Yeah. So that's crazy. We'll see what happens there. That would be a hell of a series. Speaking of Rantanen, we thought we were done with this shit. Okay. A little bit of drama this week. Rod the Bod went on a radio show this week, earlier in the week, and said that Rantanen didn't want to be in Carolina from the start. He basically came in and said, I would go to 4 teams outside of Colorado, and Carolina isn't one of them. I am not staying here. Now,
shocker. It was all
now listen. Rantanen's agent has since clapped back.
Sure, of course he has to.
And saying Rod the Bod he says, I like Rod Brind'Amour. He's a great coach. In this situation, he doesn't have his facts straight.
Yeah, I don't believe that one bit. I think Rod the Bod knows what the fuck's up. And I think anyone who even tuned into 10 minutes of the Carolina games knew exactly which is a little bit more closer to the truth. This is just a continuation. And honestly, I'm glad we get it going because it just gets me fired up a little bit. The agent...
Jack hates Rantanen now.
Of course the agent's going to say that. Because what else would he say? Yeah, my client didn't want to be there, so he tanked so he could bitch.
Well, he could have just said nothing.
Could have said nothing. That would have been better. Why respond? Rod the Bod wants to get something off his chest. He looks like a little bit more of a prick. If you don't respond, you respond because it's the truth. And you need to do damage control because you don't know how to do PR. That agent, oh my God.
What if he's telling the truth, though?
He's not. If he's telling the truth...
And what if he is?
Then
you don't know that.
Then Scooby-Doo taught me nothing, okay?
You don't know that.
You can sniff out this bullshit a mile away, buddy.
You don't know that.
Oh, I know it.
You don't know.
I'll chop off my left pinky. If Rod Brind'Amour comes back and says, I was just...
He's never going to say that.
I was a little hot and I got out of hand. I may have fabricated.
He's never going to say that.
The fact that Rantanen, the guy who decided he wanted to have Snickers bars on the bench, didn't want to play didn't want to show up, decided this was a cardio session and he was going to go to Pilates after. If that is at all untrue, what Rod said, God strike me down right now. Nothing. Nothing. This agent is a fucking. All agents, I'm sorry, are slimy scumbags. You have no talent, so you feed off of other people's talent. That's an agent. Of course he's gonna say this. I'm glad he did. It lets me know who else is this guy managing. Because if they request a trade, guess what? I'm not touching that player in fantasy. I'll tell you that. I'm done.
Just when you thought the drama was over, it's not.
No.
It's kind of just like the Miller stuff in Vancouver
If there's a
and the
guy,
Rangers drama. Has there ever been this much drama in a regular season in
no,
NHL history
over bullshit,
over
no.
nonsense? First, you got Boston with Swayman and the contract shit. That plays out horribly. The Rangers with what happened there, they're telling guys, we don't want you here when he's the captain, but then they let him still be the captain and then trade him in the middle of the season. And then Vancouver's got the Miller Pedersen beef, and then Miller gets traded to the Rangers. Rantanen out of nowhere gets traded to Carolina because Colorado knows they can't re-sign him.
Throws a hissy fit.
Doesn't know if he wants to stay in Carolina or not. Gets traded again. Has there ever been a player get traded, get flipped at that level, like that high of a level of a player get flipped in the middle of the season, the same season that he got traded in? Never has there ever been something like that.
Listen,
and then Boston trades their captain, who's been there for 20 fucking years, out of the fucking blue.
if you want to ask me, did I, at the beginning of the season, before any of this came out, did I think Rod Brindamore knew how to hold a grudge? Yeah, I think Rod knows how to hold a grudge. The guy who was addicted to the gym, his players needed to lock him out when he was in junior. Yeah, I think the guy loves work ethic and I think he appreciates and respects it. And if you have none, he's going to be fuming. And that guy holds a grudge and wants to go a little public. Not the greatest look, Rod. Okay, I think everyone could have read.
I don't think, but if you actually listen to the interview, it's not like he's pissed off at Randon. He's
He
not
was
calling
probably
him out.
posed a
He
question.
was posed the question.
Yeah.
He said, "Listen, it's his right. If he doesn't want to be here, he doesn't want to be here. That's his right." And that's all he said. He wasn't.
He threw a little gut punch
He didn't.
by
He
going into
didn't. He
detail.
didn't. He didn't.
And I would have
He
done
said
the
from the start,
same thing.
Randon didn't want to be here, so the management thought maybe we can change his mind. So they stuck around for a little bit. When it became clear he wasn't going to change his mind, they made the deal.
That little skunk streak in his hair, that little silver line. Yeah, he sprayed Rantanen because the guy deserved to be sprayed. The guy's a scumbag. Rantanen, you're Scandinavian. What do you want money for? Like,
Well, what does that have to do with anything?
the taxes are so high there anyway.
Well, he doesn't live there.
Nobody's bringing it back. Where's
You
he
don't
gonna
know that.
retire? I don't care where he retires.
You don't
Retire
know
in
that.
Timbuktu for all I care, Rantanen. You're a scumbag. Your agent's a scumbag. Anything you touch will fall apart. Dallas, I'm rooting against you just because of Miko Rantanen.
I mean, this is a guy who has a Stanley Cup.
Never getting another one.
You know, his points per game in the playoffs is like top 10 in NHL history with guys that have played at least 50 games in the playoffs.
Not anymore. Not once he tanks.
Like
That
almost
average is gonna go way
like
down.
it's like McDavid, Draisaitl, McKinnon,
He's
like
gonna-
Gretzky, Lemieux are the
he's
only
gonna
guys better
fall
than
off.
him.
He's gonna fall off. Oh, eat this apple. It won't make you fall asleep. Snow White, you're gonna go to sleep, buddy. Whoever, you know what's gonna happen? Natchez is gonna flying elbow Rantanen, and he's gonna get a conky so bad.
Natchez is gonna do that.
Natchez is
No,
gonna
he's
do it
not.
in true poetic nature. And it will be the end.
Jack's
of
Jack's
Miko
talking
Rantanen.
about Rod the Bod holding grudges.
It's why I love Rod the Bod so much. Okay,
So I don't think Rod the Bod is directly involved, and you are more angry at it than he is.
there's few things better than a good grudge.
Yeah. Okay. In the same sense of Florida, but in the opposite direction, everyone is shitting on Carolina here. Are they as bad of a situation as everyone seems to think they are?
Probably not.
No.
They're probably still a great team.
Listen, take Rantanen out of this.
Yeah.
Since they made that trade, basically they have lost Natchez and Drury, and they have brought in Stankoven and a bunch of picks. Now listen, this is a team that's trying to win now, so the picks they really matter. They're going to be late first round picks.
I don't feel great.
It's not terrific, but it's still a first round pick.
Still got Stankoven.
It's still and Stankoven. I think Stankoven fits Carolina's style of play better than Natchez and Rantanen. I'm not saying Stankoven is the same player as those players. Now he could be. He's very young. We don't know what he's going to be yet. But he's already capable of being an everyday NHLer at this age.
Yeah.
For very good hockey teams. Yeah. He will fit Carolina to a T.
I agree. I think
Carolina has proven they don't need, well, I wouldn't say proven. A regular season, they don't need superstars. The way they play, they don't need superstars because they're so like, you have to be in good shape. It's man on man.
I think
it's a hard style to play, and only certain players can play it.
This was a very expensive learning opportunity for that general manager.
Yeah.
That's what this was.
Yeah.
You didn't have the conversation. You just went for it. He showed up and misty-eyed.
Yeah.
And he didn't want to be there. I only have 14 NHL that I would play for.
Let's move on from that.
And I think that's it. Like, Stankoven's gonna still be a great team. Their systems are so great. They've got phenomenal coaching. You picked up a couple picks, whatever. It's fine. I still think net
and Taylor Hall
net, you still. This is a fuck up.
Yeah, it's a fuck up.
Not as bad, and frankly,
but people are making it seem like it's like the end of the world.
It's not the end of the world, and if Rantanen doesn't want to be there, you're better off getting rid of him because you wouldn't have gotten any better. And if he doesn't fit the system, then it highlights it even more.
Yeah, and I don't think he ever fit the system, so it was an interesting guy to bring in. Yeah, like you said, it was a lesson learned for the GM in Carolina. Take a page out of Jim Nill's book in Dallas. He said, "I'll bring Rantanen in, but I'm only bringing him in if he signs right now." So,
and that would have given Carolina the leverage, frankly, because it's like, buddy, you already signed. You probably have no move. You're not leaving unless you don't want to play in the NHL anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Figure it the fuck out. Yeah, figure it the fuck out. But listen, you look at Carolina's road in the playoffs right now. So Washington's 10 points ahead. So Carolina's going to get second in the Metro. They're going to play New Jersey in the first round. New Jersey is gutted with injury, especially to their top end of the lineup. So that should be a win. Now listen, Washington has been a great team.
Yeah.
But they've been a great team for one season. We don't know if they're ready yet. We don't know. They could be. We don't know.
I like their team a lot.
I like their team a lot. I think they're a playoff style team, but are they ready yet?
You've got some guys with playoff experience. You have a lot of guys without playoff experience. Some of your top producers don't have any playoff experience. Miko comes to mind.
Like, of course, Ovi has playoff experience, but Ovi isn't the player he was.
Ovi's dinosaur.
He still scores, but outside of scoring.
That's about it. Miko comes to mind. Chikrin comes to mind.
Even Strome.
Dubois has some, but like not deep.
Yeah, nothing.
And you're kind of like, and I took a gamble on PLD again, traded for him, and it's like, I do think he has found his stride and found some consistency here.
The point being, Carolina's situation isn't as dire as people make it out to be.
It's not.
They could easily be in the Eastern Conference Finals, and if you make it that far, who knows?
Who knows?
You have a hot goalie. Your team plays well defensively. You don't know.
Yeah. No, it's not a be all end all.
Yeah.
This didn't ruin the team. This didn't blow it up.
No.
It doesn't feel good. It's a learning lesson.
Yeah.
And you found out quickly that this guy probably was going to be toxic to your team anyway. Move me, Miko. Move me, Miko over there.
All right.
Oh, I'm Miko Rantanen. Move me, Miko.
All I have is East stuff this week. Not too much West stuff. Boston.
How much more do you got? I gotta unload here. Should I go now or we almost?
Can you like go to the bathroom before we start this ever? Or?
Do you see how many liquids I drink on this show?
Oh, like holy shit! There's still quite a bit left, so I
Okay,
guess you
let me
better
squeak.
pause it.
Let me squeak.
I have to be like his mother. Jack, make sure you go to the bathroom before we start. Yeah, exactly. Okay, I'll talk while he's gone. Um, Boston. Do the studs still want to be in Boston? Now, Boston, obviously, the big news is the Marchand trade. They made a couple other deals. We spoke on Coyle to Colorado. Frederick went to Edmonton. Nothing outrageous. Some very good second tier guys on their roster. Um, but it's time for a retool for Boston. I don't think Boston is going full rebuild here. Swayman is young. McAvoy is still young. Pasta's in his prime. He's not young, but he's not old either. But seeing this, these are high end talent players. Do these players still want to be there? Because it could work, it could happen right away, it could be long term. I would especially say Pasta in this situation because, again, he's not old, but he's not young. He's not a young gun here.
What are we
So,
talking about?
so does Pasta go in? I'm saying these Boston studs.
Yeah.
It's not going to be a full rebuild here. You have still have very good players on the roster.
Yeah, especially if you're talking
Yeah,
Pasta, he's too valuable, he's too
you
talented.
still have you have a forward in Pasta, you have a defenseman in McAvoy, and you have a goalie in Swayman.
You have to try a retool before you try.
It's going to be a retool. It's what it's going to be. But does Pasta want to hang around for that? Because you don't know how long it's going to take.
How long is Pasta? How old?
Probably, I'd say 28. He's in his prime. He's not young, but he's not old either.
So yeah, I think he's same draft year as Matthews.
I think he's slightly older.
Is he slightly older?
Yeah. He's 28, so he's 96, so he's a year older than Matthews.
You probably say you have a year. If you can't do this
To prove it to me that we can turn this around.
Yeah. I don't
because he
think
hasn't won. He's never won.
No. I think where's he at in his contract?
I believe he signed a new one not too long ago.
Pretty recent. You're probably in a position of like listen, I'll give you guys a year to show me that you guys can make meaningful strides.
Yeah.
If it doesn't significantly improve, then I have to go elsewhere.
Pasta's contract expires the 2030-31 season, and he makes 11.25 per season.
And that's going to look really good in trade value if this doesn't work out in the next year or two.
Yeah. So does Pasta? Is Pasta going to go in there and say, "Listen, I don't like the direction"? Is he going to say, "I'll wait it out"? But if you don't figure it out quick, McAvoy and Swayman still have enough time, I think.
Swayman in particular, I think,
because he's a goalie.
Yeah. I think the biggest one is Pasta, and Pasta should go forward. And I think it would surprise me if he didn't say, "Listen, you guys have done right by me. I'd like being here." If he does, if that's the truth, and say, "You need to show me meaningfully improving the team."
I guess McAvoy's only 27, and Swayman's 26. Now Swayman's a goalie, so it's different. But
yeah,
and he just signed too.
He needs to go in and be like, "We need to make the playoffs next year. We don't need to win, but we need to make the playoffs.
We need to make strides.
And if we win, you need to set tangible goals. Make the playoffs. That's step one. Step two is after you make that playoffs, that next off season and trade deadline, you need to get even better.
Yeah.
If I don't see that happening, you're going to trade me.
Yeah, that's tough. It's tough.
It's real.
Because I do think he likes being in Boston, just like Marchand likes being in Boston. Like I would imagine that Marchand probably lives in Boston after he retires, right?
And this is like another
so Pasta has been there a while.
You called it out before. Like, what is Don Sweeney doing? You need to get on the same page, and if you're not, then
Now listen, I'm gonna say something in Don Sweeney's defense here that we didn't have all the facts on last week.
Okay.
So apparently Boston did offer. We knew that Boston offered Marchand a new deal. We didn't know what the money was.
We thought it was a haircut.
Now apparently he was getting offered what he makes now in terms of AAV, not the length, not the entire contract, but in terms of AAV. He was gonna make the same as what he's at now,
and he was
and he wanted a raise.
that is insane.
So he's at like
I
6'2", 6'3", something like that.
When you told me this, it was
Yeah.
kind of like, okay, there's always two sides to the
Yeah,
coin.
there's two sides to the story here. I don't think Sweeney handled it terrifically well, regardless.
But you had to be.
Yeah,
He was probably like, you
maybe
guys are
this
gonna.
was a maybe he did this sooner. You get more back.
Yeah, my guess is the compromise that he was looking to go with was, you're either going to give me term or you're going to give me money, and they
Yeah,
were like, we can't
yeah,
do that.
we're not doing that.
So it was like, okay, if you're not going to give me term, then I'm asking for a raise,
Yeah,
and they weren't willing to sign him for
yeah.
more than probably 2-3 years.
I don't think Marshawn was asking for term. I think at most it would be a 3-year deal. I think he just wanted a raise because he can see the caps going up, and he wanted to get his. That's what he wanted. I think that's what happened.
Yeah,
Now the situation will be interesting when it comes up to he has to sign a new deal with somebody in the offseason. I don't think Florida is giving him a raise.
no.
Florida took him on, and I believe Boston ate half his deal.
Um, I think it does need to be a, hey, Marshawn, don't get too comfy here, pal.
So, and he basically said to Boston, the only place I'm going to go is Florida. But now the offseason is going to come. Boston doesn't want to pay you what you want, and Florida is going to have to still has to sign Bennett. They still have to sign Ekblad. They still have other players to sign.
Guys that aren't 38.
37, 38 years old. They're going to prioritize those guys over you.
As they should.
So what is your plan here?
Yeah, I think there does become an element of Marshawn.
I know the cap's going up. I get that, but this is a 37-year-old player whose production is dropping off.
You better
Very valuable in the playoffs, but his production is dropping off.
You better be confident in what you're capable of, and you better show it. Because if not, you may have overplayed your hand here.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. In the same sense of, do they still want to be there? What is next for Buffalo? Because the rumor this week is that Darlene isn't happy.
No.
Now, Elliot, I wouldn't say Elliot quashed this, but he's saying it's not true at this time.
So maybe someone's
maybe not true, but he doesn't fully believe it yet.
He didn't explicitly say it, but people are kind of saying, like, looking at him, and maybe some locker room tone and just body language.
You've traded Cousins. Thompson is older than people think. I think Thompson's 28. Yeah. Darlene is the captain. He makes the big bucks. But the direction of this franchise isn't up.
No. And it doesn't seem clear either.
And it's kind of like, you can't retool because you're too bad to retool. It's kind of full rebuild, and you've already been doing that for the past a decade.
I mean, you saw with Lukanen, like, your players are mocking your franchise.
I just don't know what the direction is, and I can't see like any players, like stud players like Darlene, like Power, like Thompson, wanting to stick around too long term. Now, I do think that Darlene is still young enough that he could wait it out a couple more years, and Power is super young. So, like, even if you did go for rebuild, Power could see that. Thompson won't see that. Darlene won't, probably because of the money he makes, won't see that.
And it does make it tough because, like, all those players that you do draft, you're going to be like, it's kind of a Bedard situation.
Yeah.
Where you're like, hey, you're going to come in here and our top line is going to be you and Foligno and whoever else.
And Patrick Maroon.
Like, that sucks. If you're a good player and you're getting drafted there, it doesn't help. That's honestly like a good part of the battle with a rebuild, is being like, guys, just stick with it. Yeah. We know we suck. You're kind of seeing what
Buffalo's been doing that for too long now.
The success story of doing that is Anaheim, where you do see
they're starting to get better.
Leo Carlson's getting more time.
Even you look in the same state, San Jose. They're still bad, but there's promising signs. And they're earlier in the rebuild than Anaheim is.
Yes. You're starting to be like, players are willing to kind of do this. They're getting the buy-in. You had some guys who, earned their way into some cash. But Toronto was by no means, he started last season fucking unbelievable. But it's like you have some guys who stuck it out who are like, listen, you're gonna scratch my back, I'll scratch yours.
Yeah,
I played my ass off.
yeah,
I'm gonna let you go and continue to have some money. You're gonna pay me
yeah,
later. Um, but it allows you to dangle some money out there for some guys who are on the edge and on the fringe. And
yeah,
you have Truba who could be some veteran leadership in the room. You have, um, you're trading away some of your old guys who deserve a shot elsewhere.
yeah.
You saw that with,
With Fowler, and they've been trying
yeah,
to trade Gibson for years.
yeah. So you can see what happens when it does work out. It's several years of suffering as a franchise and
Yeah,
as a fan,
yeah.
but you can start to see the light at the end if it's done well. I don't know if Buffalo fucking knows how to do it. That's
That's the problem. They've drafted so many good players that it's like, oh, this guy doesn't look great, and then he goes somewhere else and he looks great.
yeah, Eichel.
Eichel, O'Reilly,
You had one of the
Reinhardt.
best players in the NHL today,
Yeah,
and you forced him out.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
how stupid do you look?
yeah. So yeah, we'll see what happens there. Not sure what their plan is. If it's full rebuild, because there was a couple of seasons where they were getting pretty close to the playoffs, but it's fallen off since then, and it's not getting better.
If I'm a player in Buffalo, I
Yeah,
want out.
yeah, a good, a high end player
Yeah.
is yeah,
If you're there and you can get a couple bucks extra because no one wants
yeah,
to play there,
yeah,
fantastic. If you're actually talented, I don't want to be there.
yeah. Okay, couple more things. It was a big game last night. The Rangers and Columbus battle for the last spot in the playoffs. They're both right there, and the Rangers pulled it out. I believe it was a 4-0 final.
Really?
Yes, 4-0 final. So the Rangers own the last spot. Columbus actually falls behind Montreal now because Montreal beat Florida last night. It's tight. You got the Rangers on 72, Montreal on 71, Columbus on 70, Detroit and Boston on 68. It's coming down to it. Nobody's really taken that big. Ottawa has, but for the first wild card, Ottawa's got a 5 point gap on the Rangers. So, and they're playing good hockey. So, um, I was going to touch on Ottawa a little bit, but we're running a little long. So let's talk about them next week.
Sure.
We did touch on them a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, on the beginning, but it's not nothing too pressing. So, um, I think we might need to have a conversation about the playoff format because of exactly what we talked about with Colorado and Dallas playing each other in the first round.
This is a big conversation.
I know it's been a thing for a long time.
Yeah. And there's people on both sides of being for and against.
I get that the NHL wanted it, so like it's within division, you get more rivalry games, blah blah blah, more rivalry series when playoffs come.
You have two teams that are Stanley Cup final contending quality teams who are going to
Play in
one's
the
going to
first
get
round.
eliminated in the
Yeah,
first round. That
play in the
sucks.
first round.
That sucks.
If so, the way the playoffs are right now. So if we go to the West, the way the playoffs are right now, it would be Winnipeg would play Vancouver, Vegas would play Minnesota, and then you would have LA and Edmonton and Dallas and Colorado. If you did it pure 1-8, but say we can still do the division, so the division winners automatically get the top two seeds. So in this case, Winnipeg would get first. They would still play Vancouver. Vegas would still get second. They would still play Minnesota. Now you would reseed it for the rest of the way, right?
Yeah.
Because you would still, so that's 1-8, 2-7. If the second place team is lower than the next best team in the same division as the first place team, that team still gets a 2 seed. Okay. Just the way it used to be when there was 3 divisions. But you do it so that you actually get a reward for winning your division. Yeah. That's the whole reason to do it. In this case, Vegas and Dallas are pretty tight, so it could go either way. But so Dallas would get the 3 seed. Colorado would be in the 4 seed. You'd have LA in the 5 and Edmonton in the 6 at the moment. That could interchange, obviously.
Okay.
So it would be Dallas would play Edmonton and Colorado would play LA.
I like that a lot more.
It pushes it to the end or near the end of the playoffs. You get the big guns playing each other. Yeah. It'll be a fun series. It'll be a fun series in the first round, but it's just like these are two stud teams, and one of them is going to be eliminated in the first round.
Yeah.
First round, Eve goes the same in the Atlantic. One of Florida, Toronto, and Tampa will get first and avoid each other, but the other two teams have to play each other in the first round. And that's been a thing in the Atlantic for years now.
And frankly, if like you are the second or third, you squeak into a third, it doesn't feel great to constantly being exited in the
Yeah.
first round
Yeah.
and not getting some more playoff experience, seeing different teams. Because I mean, how many fucking times is it Boston or Tampa that we play? It's
We
every
play
time.
Boston every year.
And so it's like
Yeah.
you don't get any sort of like, you don't get different looks. And it requires you to be like,
Yeah.
I need to win. I need to win against one of the best teams in the entire league
Yeah.
in order to even get a shot at going to the second
That's
round.
your division is so much stronger than the other division. And both conferences have it. The Central is a lot stronger than the Pacific, and the Atlantic is a lot stronger than the Metro. Um, I just
It just doesn't feel good.
you could get a Dallas Colorado series in the second round or the conference final.
When it feels like it matters more too.
Yeah,
It feels
yeah.
like more of a spectacle. The
And just
first
like
round should frankly be, hey,
like
everyone who squeaked in, you either got to show up or you're gone.
it's all well and good. Like yeah, it's great entertainment. It doesn't matter what round it's in, but you have to have a reward for playing well in the regular season.
Yeah.
You're not getting that. The Central has three of the best four teams in the West, and two of them got to play each other in the first round.
It's bad. It's a bad format.
Like, what happens if at the end of the year here, Edmonton has fallen off big time already? LA is kind of what LA is, and say Vegas falls off a little bit, and Colorado and Dallas pump up and pump up the intensity and play terrific. And Winnipeg, Dallas, and Colorado have the highest points totals in the West over every other team in the Pacific, and they got to all play each other within the first two rounds.
And frankly, it does cannibalize some of the other games.
Yeah.
Because if you are in the West, who the hell is not watching that series?
Yeah.
And so it's like if you're trying to get people exposed to the East or, vice versa, it's just not going to happen because you're going to watch the fucking superstar game that's going to be insane.
Yeah.
So you're cannibalizing your own product.
Yeah. I would personally I like the 1-8 a lot better, and I know a lot of people agree with that. I personally would actually even go even further, but it's never gonna happen. They're always gonna do East West. But they used to do a straight 1 through 16, which I love. I think that's great. I think that's great because you're playing teams from both conferences. It's just you got to.
It's a scheduling and travel nightmare.
I understand that, but you're being rewarded.
Yeah.
For having a good regular season.
I don't think it'd happen.
It's not going to happen.
I like the idea.
It's not going to happen, but I love that. I'll compromise and say we need the 1-8 back.
Okay.
That's all I got. You got anything else?
No, this is a fun one. Miko, I didn't mean it. Please play well. I'm glad. Just stop being a jerk. Okay.
All right, here we go. One more thing, folks.
Slap shots. We're going with a green, which I think is different. Okay. This is Blue Liners.
All right, here we go.
Okay, for 100 points. Which former NHL defenseman coached the New York Islanders during each of their Stanley Cup championships?
Al Arbor, I believe.
Final answer?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Nice, easy.
Yeah, nice and easy.
200 points. Which James Norris Memorial Trophy winner went on to coach the Anaheim Ducks to a Stanley Cup championship?
It was Randy Carlyle, I believe.
Correct.
Yeah.
Somehow. 300. After immigrating from Sweden in 1973, this blue liner helped open the doors for European players to sign in the NHL. Was it?
Boreas Salmon.
Another one. You're flawless today.
Flawless. Yeah.
No, you can.
That should have been like the 100-point one. That was too easy.
Okay. Which NHL defenseman is the subject of the tragically hip song 50 Mission Cap? You ever listen to that song?
Yeah, but I didn't know this was about an NHL defenseman.
Apparently. You want options?
So I want to say it was early 2000s, I would say. This song?
It doesn't say.
It doesn't say. But you would say, right?
Yeah.
That time period?
Sure.
Is it about a current... Oh my God.
So I've not heard of this player. Let me see when this song came out, if that is probably fair.
It's a defenseman.
Yeah.
That's the theme. Um,
So it came out in 1993.
okay. Oh,
I
wow,
was gonna
that
say
long ago,
it
eh?
seemed like it was
Yeah,
maybe
that long ago.
yeah.
Give me the options. That's gonna
Okay.
be, yeah.
Your options are Bill Barilko, Tim
No,
Horton,
no.
Rod Langway, Jim Schoenfeld.
Maybe it was an older player. I'll go Jim Schoenfeld.
Final answer?
Sure.
Bill Barilko.
Bill Barilko is like way, way back in the day.
50 Mission Cat. We might have to listen to it after. We get copyrighted right now, but
I want to say Bill Barilko not the player who scored the cup-winning goal for the Leafs? It would have been like the full 40s, I think, and then died tragically that summer.
yeah, so he tried. So he died young.
Yeah,
So he was born in Timmins,
he scored the cup-winning goal.
March 25th, 1927, died August 26th, 1951. So young guy.
Yeah, so he scored the cup-winning goal, I
Oh,
believe, and then died the same summer.
yeah.
And I don't remember what it was, but they couldn't find him or something for a long time.
We'll listen to the song.
Yeah. The last one?
Last one for 500. So you are shooting 600 right now. For another 500, who is the first defenseman to win the Lady Byng Memorial Trophy as the most gentlemanly player?
Ooh. Can I get a year?
I didn't even know. 48, 49.
Oh,
Uh, I give you one more hint.
sure.
It was a Red Wing player.
Just give me the options. I'm never gonna.
Red Horner, Red Kelly, Bill Quackenbush. D. There has never been a winner who played defense.
So not that one. Uh, so Red Kelly. What were the other
Red
two?
Kelly, Red Horner, or Bill Quackenbush.
Did really Red Kelly play for the Wings? I think he did. I'll go Red Kelly.
The correct answer was Bill
Yeah,
Quackenbush.
I
What
didn't.
a name.
I didn't think it would be Red Kelly, but
What a
that's the only
name.
guy I knew. So
You did well.
yeah,
I
not
mean,
bad.
not bad.
3 for 5.
Some obscure
Yeah,
questions
yeah,
late
very
there.
obscure, but they were the harder ones, so that makes sense.
Anything non-hockey related you want to add?
Go Blue. We got college hockey and basketball coming up. The tournaments are coming, so that you'll start seeing some college players signing in the NHL
Yeah.
here in a little bit. Ryan Leonard would be the one to look out for the most in Washington. But yeah, Michigan's in the Big Ten title game for basketball today, and they do Selection Sunday tonight, and then we got hockey coming up pretty soon too.
Yeah.
So go Blue.
Go Blue.
I got nothing else. You got anything?
Um,
How does it feel to be 29 years of age?
just a classic quarter life crisis, you know.
Yeah,
I
living
feel
to
like
120.
yeah, I feel
Yeah.
like Miko Rantanen. What am I doing? You know? I'm not bitching and moaning as much, but hey, different people react differently. Go buy Roar if you like
It is
coconut
good. Yeah,
water.
I had it for the first time last night.
Great juice.
Yeah,
Coconut water. Potential body armor replacement.
Canadian.
Canadian. Buy Canadian. Bye. Go pack yourself.